Hello, welcome to Kindred Skulls. My name is Gregg Blake. I am one of the hosts of the show. I'm joined this evening. We have a full complement this evening. Very excited. Matt Freese. Hello,
How's it
how
going?
are you?
I showed up last week, unlike somebody else here.
Yeah, you and I are Iron Man.
Hello, Matt.
And we're so glad to have Nick Olson back on the show tonight as a co-host, as usual. Hi, Nick.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Matt. Good to see y'all. I missed you.
I missed you too, man.
It was hard.
Yeah, I think Matt and I, held our own, but we definitely missed your input. So it's good to have you back. How was your week, guys? How you been?
My week has been relatively calm. So it's been all right. I guess the win was you know what? We'll get into that. We don't need to talk about that.
It was miserable, but now that it's in the rearview mirror, I'm much happier week. Gregg Joseph made that kick.
Yes.
If we were 1-4 right now, like it would be, as a fan perspective, it would be pure 100% doom instead of now we get to focus on a few silver linings.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not 1-4. We're 2-3 because we won. We won week 5. We beat the Detroit Lions, who were a lot tougher than I think
the mighty Detroit Lions.
Lions, who I disrespected greatly on this show. And I claimed we would beat them by 21 points, I think is what I said at the end of the show. And honestly, I think we could have done it, but that's a whole other discussion. We'll get there. How do we feel? We won. We feel good about this. We feel. How do you guys feel about it?
I feel absolutely terrible about the win. This is the worst I've ever felt about an individual Vikings win. But Nick just said, I think now that we're like 3 days away from it, like when we won, I was just as pissed off as if we had lost right after the game because we had lost the game, really, functionally.
We kind of deserved to too. Like,
we absolutely deserved
to win. So
like, and that's the thing that's frustrating about it is we really deserved to lose. The way we played in that second half, I mean, and it's not just the conservative play calling, it's also the execution, right? It just the entire thing of the game really felt to me like the team didn't, it was one of those where we thought we were playing the Citadel, right? In college football or something, or Alabama, and we're just going to run over them 70-0. It doesn't matter. And that's the way the second half of the game felt like, is we were just trying to get out of there and trying to leave. And then we had to turn it on, and fortunately we did, I guess, in the last couple seconds, but it was just really frustrating.
I had a very similar viewing experience. I was sitting down to do our notes for the show tonight, and I was like, all right, we won. Why did we win? What are the things that happened? And I went and looked at, my running notes from the game, and I was like, did we win this? Because every note I had was, we can't seal the deal in the third quarter. We back-breaking turnovers, And I even remember when we were up by like 10 points, I was like, I think we got this. I had flipped away from the game. I literally I was like, I think we've got this. I think we got this sealed up. And we have another totally bizarre end of game sequence. I'm just utterly like, what happened? And I had to flip it back on. And it was just like, why am I still watching this game? What is going on? That was a very frustrating game to watch from beginning to end.
From the start of the final drive of the first half, where they just ran the ball and ran the clock out. You had 2 timeouts in 41 seconds, and you just who needs extra points? Just walk away, go into the locker room. That's just
it was bad.
Yeah, it was bad, and then
a bad win.
So like coming out of the second half, going 3 and out like 2 or 3 times in a row, or one of them was an interception or something, and then another 3 and out, and then just like mistake after mistake, and you're just trying to like grind out a win. Yep. And when you have a chance to put the game away, you have one drive where Gregg Joseph misses a kick. It's effectively a 3 and out because they got a turnover and then probably wasted it.
By the way, that was the most bizarre missed kick I've ever seen. Like that was good, 100%. Like I was shocked when it was short. Even
more bizarre than Rodrigo Blankenship on Monday Night Football with the helmet and sitting on the sideline like from hunched over.
I mean, from like when you look at the kick when it leaves the kicker's foot, like I 100% expected that to be a good.
It looked good.
It looked good.
So that was frustrating too. Is like it looked like it went in, and then we were like, oh wait, no, okay, this game isn't put away. Then we get another chance to put the game away. We do 3 runs, and they're all terrible. And then Madison chooses the wrong hole. He bounces outside for no reason, like he's in college, and then tries to get extra yards because he's like at the -2 and wants to get an extra 3 yards on 3rd down, like that's going to do anything. And he coughs up a fumble. And the Lions promptly scored a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. It's like, oh my gosh, how much are we going to be put through these first few weeks of the season? Yep. So yeah, I'm very thankful for Gregg just for making that kick, because otherwise it would have been doom.
We got it out. Okay, it was a
lot of feelings, Gregg.
I'm right there with you guys. I probably had even more rage than you on game day. I was very, very frustrated with this team. All that stuff's probably going to be simmering under the surface for a while, but for now, let's say, you know what? The reality is we won, right? We had over 100 yards on the ground again. Kirk Cousins kissed 300, came real close again. We had some really encouraging performances defensively. Justin Jefferson had 124 yards receiving, most of that in the first half. We had some good things to take away from it, right? Our running game was ticking. Passing game really exploded in the first half. It looked like it was going to be a rout. It felt it had that feel to it for a moment. Defensively, we seem to be really making a stand, and I think a big part of the reason we won the game is that Jared Goff kind of sucked really bad and gave us a lot of chances to win.
So I will say, I think if you want to look at the major reason we won the game overall, I think the defense is your answer. So the performance of the defensive line was awesome. I mean, Nick, you've highlighted Ev Griffen and DJ Wanham actually really heavily. Danielle Hunter, I thought, also played great. I mean, he's still himself, which is great to see. We've talked about it a couple times already this season, but he really is the player he was before the injury, which wasn't certain. And then the person I haven't mentioned yet, Eric Kendricks, obviously that incredible interception, really was making plays all over the field on defense. One hand, just reaching the palm out there and pulling it in. Really a crazy play. The ball skills for a linebacker are impressive with him. And he's made a number of those plays. He had one of those last year against Carolina or Dallas. And then he almost had another one. I forget what the order was, but he almost had one against one of Carolina and Dallas. And then he had one the next week or something.
Would he be your best performer overall from the defense this week?
It's him or Everson, probably. I mean, I think you can really flip a coin between the two. In the secondary, Pat Pete made a couple of critical breakups. And really, the secondary in general played good. I mean, Breland had a couple of mistakes again. But he wasn't
he had some good plays too. He was good in coverage for the most part. He made some nice tackles, stops on 3rd downs and stuff. So, secondary play. I mean, it helps to play against the Lions wide receivers. But
yeah, it really does.
So you guys have had a chance to really dig into this. For me, I felt like watching it. It was one of those games where I felt really good about the defense. I agree with you. That's really the reason we won this game. But is there a part of you that is kind of like, maybe our opponent really sucked, and is this really an honest result? You know what I mean? Like, did we really, really outplay them, or is it a situation where they just weren't very talented and they couldn't do much against us?
I think actually on both sides of the ball, I would say a lot of the good and the bad was on us and not a result of the DJ Wanham was lined up against like Jonah Jackson, who's not good. He lined up inside. We can get into a little bit more about his potential as sort of a Tom Johnson type, but just an interior pass rusher on pass rushing downs. But it's true that Jonah Jackson was bad, but that spin move will translate against better players too. That was a very fluid spin move that I didn't know he could do before. Or is his arm over, his little swim move of pass, but that should translate on the outside too. So Danielle Hunter, the moves he was doing, it's he does crazy stuff. So the traits I'm seeing, I think, or Patrick Peterson making good breaks on the balls getting his hand, breaking passes up. It's true that like these weren't great players they were making plays against, but like I think the traits they show on film will translate going forward. At the same time, like Madison, like not choosing the right holes to go through, like Oli Udoh, like getting doing the wrong thing in run plays, like not getting his assignment down, not doing his blocks. Rashad Hill not generating any vertical displacement as in like drive blocks when they're running duo or power or anything. Those are things that like it's not because the lines were really good. It's because Rashad Hill is bad at drive blocks. It's because Oli Udoh is kind of a work in progress and had a really rough game. And I think that's probably going to continue going forward.
So flip side of the coin there for you is that you felt like this is something the defense can build on.
Yeah. I think so. I agree with that. And I would say on the defense to add, like, I think if you look at it in the performance in context with what we've had the past couple of weeks, we shut down the Seahawks, who are a really good offense, and really we limited the Browns pretty well. And you look at what the Browns were able to do last week against the Chargers, who are an up and coming defense. They have a lot of talent on that defense. And they have the hottest defensive coordinator in the NFL, head coach, I guess, but hottest defensive mind in the NFL, and Brandon Staley, right? Everybody loves what Brandon Staley's doing. They obliterated the Chargers defense. And I mean, that was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah.
But if you look at the performances of the defense, we did a way better job against the Browns than they did, I think. So looking at our performance in this game, which I thought was pretty good on defense, particularly when you account for the only touchdown we allowed was in desperation time for the Lions, and they got the ball on the 20. I think you feel pretty good about the defensive performance overall and the defense moving forward.
I totally agree with you guys. But, even though we have a defense that's improving, it looks like we have something we're building on. We have an offense that has shown that it can put up points. We haven't had the game where it all kind of comes together yet. But more importantly, I think I don't want to exaggerate. Is it every game now we've had some kind of madness at the end of the game? Some kind of wacky thing that, Matt and I talked about this last week. Teams that are really, really great, they find a way to make big plays. They find a way to finish off opponents. They have a knack for it. Do you think what's going on with this team right now? Is this what we're going to be watching all year, that we just can't get it together at certain points of the game? Because right now we've got a pretty big sample that says this is who we are.
It's funny. It's like they're a 2-3 team, and you can see the pieces of like a team that's much worse than that, but you can also see the pieces like if this offense turns back to what it was the first few weeks, but we keep, this fixed Zimmer defense where they've been playing extremely well the last couple of weeks, like that's a contender, I think. I don't think you're basically saying if everything goes right, but yeah, like they've shown flashes, they just put it together. Even the special teams looks significantly improved. So there are the pieces of a really good team, but like the flip side of the coin is that like maybe this improved defense is a mirage, and maybe this new Clint Kubiak offense is the real deal, and this is going to be an offense that can't run the ball, can't execute, is dinking and dunking and getting stalled and punting a lot. And meanwhile, the corners can't cover anybody, and our linebackers can't fit the run. So it's going to be interesting to see which is the real Vikings.
Yeah.
Matt,
so
unless you have something to add. Okay.
Yeah. So like Nick was saying there, like you could make a legitimate argument that this should be like a 4-1 football team right now, right? Where we should have made the game-winning field goal against the Cardinals. Like I think that's very cut and dry, right? Like your kicker should be able to make a 37-yard field goal,
92% or something.
Yeah.
Like 37 yards.
And the Dalvin Cook fumble in the Bengals game wins us the game as well, right? So that's one thing that I think you can look at and argue at. The flip side of the coin is we should have just lost to the Lions. Like we should have just lost to one of the worst 3 teams in the NFL. And
what is that?
At home.
That's some bipolar shit.
It is really.
We were favored by 10 going into it by betting markets. So, but it could have been a classic Vikings blundering after coming in favored by 20 or something.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a really frustrating situation where I feel like the team has enough talent and they can put it all together in a place where we can be competitive with some of the top teams. Like, I don't think we're going to go into who do we play, like the Ravens in a few weeks, and get the doors totally blown off us.
Right.
I don't think we're going to go into the Packers
game
and Packers games and get the doors totally blown off this team. I mean, it's a possibility, but I don't think that's likely. But we just haven't, to this point, put it all together to where this is a team that's a serious contender.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nick, you touched on this a little bit a second ago. Regarding the Clint Kubiak, regarding the passing game, it's a real hot button issue right now. I can't say I agree with some of the stuff that's out there about we run too much and blah, blah, blah. You guys tell me, because I'm watching it. It feels like a play calling thing sometimes, but we know we've got a quarterback who traditionally, he has a tendency to look off receivers if he doesn't like the look. It's this sort of hodgepodge, this big collection of things that might be happening to limit our passing attack, especially in the second half, which seems to be a problem right now. What are you guys seeing in the tape, or in your review of the games? Is this a play calling issue? Is it, do you have a hunch it's Kirk? Do you feel like, what do you feel like is happening?
Yeah. So for me in this game,
are defenses adjusting to us? Like what are you seeing?
Yeah. So for me in this game specifically, I think it was mostly execution problems. I think Nick kind of alluded to that a little bit, but Alex Madison, had a pretty good stat line, and, he had a couple of nice runs. Obviously the 48-yard run he had was great. Like, he broke a tackle and made a couple guys miss, I think. And it was a really nice run, but
especially the first half, I thought he was really strong,
but he was not playing well in this game. It's been detailed pretty well by you, Nick. And I think Luke Braun has done a pretty good job too, going through, like,
friend of the show.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings, his podcast, great stuff. But if you watch, like, he's not making the correct reads. Nick, you mentioned it earlier. He was trying to make college plays, right? He's trying to bounce runs and make people miss because he thinks he can out-athlete them. And maybe that's a mindset thing going in the Lions and not respecting what the Lions have on defense, right? And it almost really bit us there at the end of the game. If you look at the situational play calling, I think is always going to be a question. NFL coaches aren't going to throw the ball as much on second as long as the analytics people are going to like them to, period. Because that's just not the way it's going to work. But I will say a couple of the second and long runs we had, or the number of those runs, felt pretty egregious in this game. I didn't take a look at the numbers to compare them really, but I mean, just the feel from it was like, oh my goodness, we're going to run on second and long, and we're going to get the other thing that's been frustrating for me with those for the Vikings this year is they're not getting.
I want to stay on second and long for a second, because we talk about on this show more than once about third and long being one of our Achilles heels as a team. And it's been that way for a while. So it would stand to reason that if you have a second and long situation, you should probably run something that doesn't put you at risk of being in third and long, which is
and that's
where we have a really hard time delivering. So
we're not getting more than 2 or 3 yards on this run. You hope on second and long that the teams are backing out of the box a little bit, expecting a pass, and you can break off a 6, 7, 8-yard run that gets you into a third and manageable situation, right? But we're not breaking that off. We're getting 2 or 3 yards. We're not getting pushed past the line of scrimmage, and our running backs are getting contacted by the defensive lineman. So I really do think we need a kind of a philosophy change there to allow us to have the chance at getting more yardage on second and long. In terms of the passing, I do think some of the checkdowns are on Kirk. I
want you to get back there, but the flip side of that too would be it might open up more options on third down. You could run again, right. It doesn't mean you can't run. Just stop doing it when you need. Sorry, go on.
No. But you're right. It's like the closer you get to the first down marker, the more options you have, and passing is more efficient than running generally, right? Like that's like a fact.
I think we can all accept that at this point.
Kirk in the second half, we kind of did turtle on offense a little bit. I think they did better stuff to take deep passes away, but there were still opportunities, I thought, that were kind of missed.
Really? I didn't think you would say that.
It wasn't.
Not that I just meant like, I didn't know that I kind of brought that up just, what's going on. You really saw some plays where you're like,
yeah, and it wasn't like every single play we've got a guy open, but there are some throws, and there was one that was detailed where I think Kirk like scrambled for a first down or something, and Justin Jefferson was like wide open on a crosser, a deep crosser all the way across the field. And that kind of stuff is, you know, and he was moving up in the pocket, shifting, and maybe you didn't see it or whatever, but like that's a play that you hope to make. There was the one rollout to Thielen that Thielen dropped, which was another big play in the game, I think, and could have kind of
quiet day overall as well.
Was running.
Yeah.
Sorry, cut you off there. Nick, did you see some of the same things regarding adjustments in the passing game? What did you notice?
I think so. We saw a lot of too high out of this game, which kind of surprised me. And you know, I think Clint Kubiak, one of the few positives, is he attacked it well with a lot of smash concepts that they executed well. Smash just being, it's a high-low to one side of the field. So if you have two receivers to one side, traditionally the inside guy will run a corner route, so up and then, you know, towards the corner, towards the sideline. The other guy will run like a little hitch or in route or something, or flat route. Basically, just put the cornerback in a conflict and throw to the guy that the cornerback doesn't cover. And they hit a few of those. They ran a lot and they had some success there. I have some issues with what they did in the run game. I feel like a lot of times they were like, oh, we have too high, let's run the ball. We'll run duo or we'll run power, because these are the, you know, the designated count. Like if you have two high safeties, then you're facing a lighter box, and we'll just run these counters that, you know, we're a wide zone team, but we'll run duo and see how it goes. And then like, I'm not sure Clint Kubiak is appreciating that, like, Bradbury isn't good at duo. Like Rashad Hill is terrible. Like Rashad Hill cannot generate any vertical displacement in a drive block. So and just the fact that like, oh yeah, they're too high, but it's like too high against a bear front or something. So, you know, you've got 2-3 techniques, one nose guard on head up on the tackle, and then two like edge rushers as well. So like, these aren't these. So you see Madison, like he had 148 yarder, but like other than that, which is like, you know, credit to him for the 48 yards, but other than that, they were averaging like 2.7 yards per rush on the day. So just a lot of runs that went nowhere, or got like 2, or got like -2, or got, and maybe you get 5-1 down, but then you get -2 the next down. So it's like, I don't know, very frustrating. I wasn't happy about the run design. I feel like they got baited a little bit by the way the Lions defense were playing their safeties and their coverages in their front. They got baited into like sort of just hammering it down. And I feel like Clint Kubiak was comfortable being like, yeah, we're just going to keep it simple. We're going to keep running smash. We're going to keep running these run looks on because, you know, we've got 2 high safeties, but he wasn't really willing to adjust and admit that like this isn't working and the Lions aren't good, but you need to do more than just like be like, oh yeah, we'll stick to our script. So frustrating.
It seems like at this point we're starting to get a good taste of Kubiak, and I think there's highs and lows. But the one thing that I've been noticing, and I think you guys sort of touched on it a number of times now over the last few weeks, is he does seem to have a little trouble reacting to what is what is being played against him. Like he's got all these creative things he wants to do. I don't know. It just seems like he gets a little rut.
Zimmer said today, like, you know, I asked Clint to take a look at our second half adjustments and what's going on there, because why we only scored like 1 touchdown in the second half or something in the last few weeks. So yeah, why our defense is like, do we need to change the way we're doing things? So and I think that's good. Like Zimmer usually does that at the bye week, I guess, but he's accelerating it this week. So clearly Zimmer recognizes that there's an issue here with the play. I don't want to say there's an issue with the play, because I think overall Clint's done a good job. I just think these past couple weeks there have been a lot of things that are frustrating, and that I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement just the last couple of weeks. So.
Yeah, and we're coming down hard on Clint Kubiak here, but I think everybody on offense shares a little bit of the blame here.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I would agree with Matt that it was more execution errors than like sure, call more passing on like 2nd and 8 or whatever, but at the same time, like Oli Udoh, like
you can't.
It's hard to have a functional offense when you got guys like Rashad Hill and Oli Udoh playing the way they will, and Madison, like even when they block it up right, he's getting into the wrong gap, or Like they're double covering, or they're safety shaded towards Jefferson. So like the only guy who's open is the check down. Like you got to be able to do better than that.
Yeah, like we kind of talked about last week, Greg. Like you can't play offense. You can't play football if your offensive line just loses every single snap. Right. That's what happened in the Cleveland Browns game. And it wasn't as egregious here, but it was happening a little bit. Like we were talking about, particularly in the run game. Yeah. On Clint, one thing I just want to say is, he is still a rookie play caller, right? And we see sometimes rookie play callers have like a ton of success in the NFL, like Kevin Stefanski did, right? Immediately. But I think it's probably, if you're a guy who doesn't have that experience calling plays, probably one of the hardest things is that adjustment period, right? I mean, obviously it's not something I have experience with, but I can imagine that the in-game adjustments and that sort of kind of getting a feel for what's going on and making the changes you need to make is probably something that takes time to learn how to execute.
Right. Not everybody's going to come right out of the box and be Kevin Stefanski rearing his ugly head at us again here. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about things you guys caught in the tape this week. It's time for Tape Talk. All right. We got two of the best tape munchers around.
All right, tape munchers. Get out your pad and paper.
Yeah, it's time to learn us up, guys. What did you see about let's talk a little bit. Let's focus on the defense first. We really liked what we saw from the defense this week. Matt, I think it was you who mentioned specifically the pass rush as being something you were really impressed with this week, or was that Nick?
Yeah, I go with Nick on this one.
Okay, Nick, we just for our listeners, we actually just tonight we're recording on a Wednesday. We posted a video of Ev Griffen just kicking everybody's ass. You can check that out on the channel.
Unbelievable.
What else did you
stuff
see about the pass rush?
Oh man, Hunter had a very good game. He looked like classic Hunter, and he was our third best pass rusher on Sunday. That's like it's a night and day difference. Last year, the Vikings had the 32nd ranked. They ranked dead last in team pass rush grade. This year, they're a top 10 team pass rush grade, and it's thanks to not just Hunter being Hunter again, but Griffen being Griffen again, and DJ Wonnum having his like big breakout game. I really thought this was. Wonnum's struggled a lot this year, and he struggled last year as a rookie too. And this we were finally able to see some flashes. So with Wonnum specifically, they were rushing him a lot on obvious passing downs from a 3 technique position, or maybe from a 5 technique position, but then he'd slant inside and attack the left guard. And he had a lot of success there, and it was really high quality pressures. It wasn't like sometimes DJ Wonnum gets like, he has a high motor and he makes effort plays, and it's great that you'll get pressure 5 seconds into the pass, but like, that's not super valuable or translatable. But like, man, he was getting in Goff's face in less than 2 seconds, just like split second pressure, like that inside spin counter. It was so fluid. And like Danielle Hunter wasn't able to execute a spin move that fluidly in his second year or even his third year. Like, it's really impressive stuff. I don't know where this is coming from, because it kind of came out of nowhere.
I was just about to ask you, did you see something he was doing differently, using a different hand, in the dirt?
It feels like it's more natural to him. I think Wonnum's always had good traits. You see the burst, you see the length and the height, and when he's able to sort of like attack, he's good, but it's kind of, he's thinking a little bit too much. When you compare him to like Ev Griffen or Danielle Hunter, there's no thinking, and it's just automatic. It's muscle memory for them. They're just like boom, 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 and they're like, oh yeah, I got a sack. How did I even do that? I just know what I'm doing. Whereas Wonnum is like, he's not really sure. This is the first time I've seen him attack very fluidly and just have a plan. Like, I'm gonna beat him with this swim arm over. I'm gonna like attack, and that's how I'm gonna get right to him. And I do think there's something to lining up inside that probably plays a little bit more to his strengths. I think he's not as bendy. I don't think as like Danielle Hunter is, like, so in terms of threatening the edge on the outside as a defensive end, it's a little trickier because he's got great upfield burst. But, if you want to get to the quarterback, not only do you need to get upfield, you also need to turn into the quarterback. And that's where he kind of struggles. I think ultimately he could be a solid starting defensive end caliber player if he learns how to sort of use his technique, like he learn how to rip with the right timing and sort of turn himself in, or like chop or get around the edge. You can use the offensive lineman's leverage and pads and their body and their momentum against them, pull yourself into the edge. But like, when he's inside, he doesn't have to worry about that. You no longer have to arc around the edge. You run straight at the quarterback. And that's why I think he had a lot of success. So he saw some really high quality. There's also he got his first sack of the season on a stunt, which was just like executed really well. So really excited about him. Everson
You
Griffen.
want him. How about that?
Yeah, Everson Griffen. And he had some good plays in run defense too. It wasn't perfect, but like, he was holding up Penei Sewell, like had a really good rep setting the edge. And he made some plays in the backside in pursuit, holding up his gap and then making a tackle. So really, really nice stuff from Wonnum, somebody who I've been disappointed in and was really excited to see him turn it around. And then, we posted Griffin. It's like teach tape stuff. Like, man, he's busting out his full bag of tricks. It's the cross chop. It's this classic spin move. It's the bull rush. It's the speed to power. It's the chop rip. It's the club. It's, he's got like his full pass set. And it looks like prime Griffin. This was his second highest pass rush grade in a game since 2017 and the second highest of his career. Like his whole career. Griffin's what?
Amazing.
33 years old. So This was, according to PFF grades, like his second best performance. So just an insane.
The cool thing about Ev, I think he's able to. I think they have him mostly coming in on passing downs. So I think for him, it's probably pretty easy to just turn all your passing rush meters to 11. Forget about the run. Forget about everything else that you used to have to do. Just go out there, beat your guy, go chill on the bench, rest up, get out there, beat your guy.
I think his snap count did increase a little bit this game, but you definitely see that the most on third downs.
They actually announced today that he was going to be the starter going forward. Like,
really? Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I mean, he's exceeded they signed this dude in August for vet minimum, being like, okay, maybe we'll work you into the rotation with Patrick Jones. And now he's starting. Yeah. He's just.
How could we have ever doubted Everson Griffen?
Well,
Come on.
He was a little out of shape a little bit, and he did, like, I was excited. I was pounding the table for him to come back because I thought there was still some juice there, but like, he did not have a good stint at all with the Cowboys, like at all. So the Lions was a little bit better, but like this is something else entirely. And
happy to see it. Very happy to see that. And we also have Matt. You gushed about him a little bit already, but talk to us about Eric Kendricks, man. What did you see this week that you were just like geeked about?
So I have a new comp for Eric Kendricks, and it's SPIDERMAN.
SPIDERMAN. I like that. We got to tweet that at him.
I seriously love what we've seen from him so far this year. I mean, obviously he's he's an all-pro player, right? He's an all-pro linebacker. He has missed a couple tackles early in this year, but in this game specifically, like he was incredible. His PFF grade was really high. But there were two plays that really stood out. And one was a run play. The other was obviously the interception. So the run play is really cool because the Lions are pulling a tight end as misdirection. So it looks like the tight end's pulling like it's split zone or something like that, and they're still running to the other side. And I think I've mentioned this on past podcasts, like the thing Eric Kendricks is a little bit susceptible to is misdirection pullers, because he sees those and he follows those guys. So he's on this play, he's able to burst through the line where the tight end kind of is to potentially disrupt that play, but that's not where the run is aimed at. So Williams is in the backfield kind of going the other direction, and Kendricks is able to change direction very quickly and corral it was Jamal Williams for the tackle there. And that's kind of like Spidey senses, right? Like he notices something is amiss when he runs through the gap, and he's able to make the change of direction to make the play, right? The other one, and Nick, you highlighted this on Twitter, I think too, was the interception was an RPO, right? So RPO, you're reading the second level linebacker, and I think Kendricks was the player being read in this particular play. That's and insane. if he they
comes design up, a play to take to pick on him.
Yeah, if he comes up at the run fake at all, you're throwing the ball over top of him, right? So he comes up for the run fake. And the corner on the play actually does a good job too, because he has tight coverage on the play, and there really isn't a window to throw the ball in here before Goff throws the ball. So he has to hold on to the ball for just a second longer than he probably should. And by the time he throws it up, I mean, Kendricks makes this ridiculous, just puts the paw up and makes this ridiculous one-handed interception. It was great.
Awesome.
So that kind of reaction and that ability, and like for a linebacker, right? Kendricks is small, just in terms of, I think he's 6 foot, he's in the 230s. He's probably in the high 230s is what he probably plays at. But like, I don't think he has like a massive wingspan or anything, but he's still able to do these things outside of his frame and affect plays outside of his frame like a larger player, I suppose.
Like Spider-Man.
Like Spider-Man, exactly. You got to get the webs out there, you know what I mean?
And it's so apt that one of my favorite tackles that he does is the shoestring grab, just sucking his hand onto it somehow, just like Spider-Man. I like to imagine Matt, just like watching plays, on this Spider-Man, just whispering to himself, Spider-Man. Every time he sees a great,
that's actually what I did.
I was like, I can picture it, man.
Like,
I love it.
I don't know how to describe that other than you got to like shot the web out and made it stick. Like
Eric Kendricks, man, he's
awesome.
awesome.
You know what's funny talking about like these blue chip guys? Like the Vikings blue chip guys are playing like blue chip. Like Danielle Hunter looks like a top 5, top 10 edge rusher. Justin Jefferson looks like a top 10 wide receiver. Like Eric Kendricks playing like Eric Kendricks is playing like a top 5 linebacker. Like Harrison Smith looks good. Dalvin Thompson, like who are the other?
This is the problem. We illustrated this, I think, on our very first show. We have pieces that are championship pieces. You plot one or two of these guys on any championship squad in this league right now, and they will immediately deliver. Immediately be a big part of that team. We have those guys. The problem is we can't seem to put it all together. And
it's like the rest of the roster. The elite players are still elite, but the offensive line, we'll see if Christian Darrisaw can help the weak point there. But
played a little bit this week, which was nice to see.
We saw against the Browns, like we don't have a playoff caliber offensive line right now. And I don't know how you fix that. There's a lot of good run defenders, but like it only takes one Nick Vigil to do away all the good work that Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson and everybody else is doing. So.
And I mean, you just brought up our offensive line struggling and run defense being sometimes a little wonky. Next week, we have a team coming in, our week 6 game, right before the bye. We have a really interesting team coming up. All right. We've got the Carolina Panthers, who are a good running team, and also have the number 1 defense against the pass and the number 3 defense against the run. They're number 2 right now overall, and I believe number 4 or 5 against scoring. But they're swooning. Okay, they've had a couple of really tough games in a row. Sam Darnold has had a couple of meltdowns in a row. He's on a little bit of a cold streak. They've got Christian McCaffrey, one of the most electric players in the NFL, but he's potentially, going to be limited coming off a hamstring injury. We're not sure what the deal is going to be there. What do you guys think of the Panthers so far? I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear yours first. Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I was actually, I live in Eagles territory, so I tend to stream the Vikings game and then just have whatever game interests me in the early slate on the background. And half the time that's the Eagles game, just because usually the CBS game kind of sucks. Actually, usually the CBS game is like the Jets or something, which is just even
nobody wants to watch that. Nobody wants to. Not even New York
Jets and Giants. I'm like stranded. I have to watch only bad football here in New York area.
So I was watching the Eagles Panthers game, and man, like Sam Darnold does not look good. Like he was making the Jets Sam Darnold why he got run out of town in New York plays. Just kind of boneheaded decisions that really quarterbacks should be able to execute. He was missing some throws. Now that being said, he hasn't been doing that all season. So it could be a game-to-game thing. And there were good versions of Sam Darnold. He's a really talented player. So if he's on, that's problematic for the Vikings. I'm not sure he's exactly going to be on. I think one mismatch that we have against them is our defensive line is a lot better than their offensive line is.
Right. Well, let's talk about that in a second. Let's stick with Sam Darnold here because, I've followed his career a little bit, and I think he's, in basketball terms, that they refer to a guy, a shooter who only gets hot every, 10, 15. They refer to him as a streaky shooter. And I think that's kind of how Sam Darnold is. He's a streaky player. He'll have stretches, began the year very hot and looked like he could do everything. He was running around, and then he gets really cold and makes bad decisions. And it's like, what is going on?
He's talented. He's just, makes boneheaded, he's done not.
Yeah. So let's hope
makes aggressive throws, which is that's like the NFL now. Like bad quarterbacks aren't bad anymore. You're not having pick your bad quarterback of a decade, 2 decades ago. Like Sam Darnold, Jared Goff, like these guys would be like solid quarterbacks like 10 years ago. Like the bar for bad quarterback play, I think is higher now. So
you're much kinder to Jared Goff than I am, but your point is well made though. I mean, he does
like Goff delivers a pretty ball. Like he's got a good arm. He's pretty accurate with it. And if you point him where to go, he's usually pretty good at knowing what to do with it. So he has his limitations, but like he's a lot better than Vinny Trestaver. I don't know. Like
you're not seeing quarterbacks throw more interceptions than touchdowns anymore.
Right.
You're really not. Like
that's true.
So I mean, I do worry about their weapons. Like Robbie Anderson versus Bashaud Breeland. Our cornerbacks are not fast. Robbie Anderson is. So is Terrace Marshall. DJ Moore is the best guy of the bunch. Christian McCaffrey might be back. So like these weapons kind of scare me a little bit. But you're right. Like this is a team that also signed Pat Elflein, but now Pat Elflein's injured. So Pat Elflein's backup is going to be matched up against, DJ Wanham on passing downs or Dalvin Tomlinson on rushing downs. So
so if we can get to Sam Darnold, get him shaken up a little bit.
Yeah, their offensive line is in absolute shambles. Like, the Eagles have a pretty good defensive line too. And Javon Hargrave has been ridiculous for the Eagles this year as kind of a sidebar. But like, we will be able to get pressure on this team. I think Danielle Hunter and Everson Griffin will be able to feast against their tackles because I think actually Taylor Moton is injured. I guess I should check that before I say that. But Taylor Moton is by far their best player on the offensive line. He got a big contract. Their other offensive tackle, I think, is Gregg Little, who is bad. So
Cam Irving.
All right, so we have
or it's Cam Irving, who is worse. So
all right, so we have a potential advantage there in terms of things we think we can get done on defense. Unfortunately, I teased this a little bit already. As tough as the Browns were to play, who were also a team ranked in the top 5 of those overall categories, the Panthers are even better. And I've caught some Panthers games this year. I've been poking at them a little bit. Their pass rush, when they are on, is just terrifying. I mean, they get after you. And
Brian Burns is scary.
Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick are scary.
Hassan Reddick. And they really get after you. And, that has been a problem for us multiple times. There's no magic pill we can take. It's just a problem for us. I really worry about how we match up against these guys offensively.
Yeah, I worry a lot more about this defense than about the offense. Although the offense, there are things that scare me about the offense, but like this defense is 3 weeks into the season, people were talking about, like this defense is this is the blueprint for what like the elite defenses will look like now. And obviously they've struggled a little bit more recently, but like secondary is good. AJ Bouye is still playing really well. They've got good. Is it AJ Terrell? Like they've got good players. So
they did lose JC Horn, which
they did lose JC Horn.
Yeah, he was playing great, and I think maybe that's maybe had a little bit of an effect on them. But it doesn't seem like they've really skipped a beat.
They lost JC Horn. They signed Stephon Gilmore, who's still not eligible to play against us, fortunately.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a lucky break. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm definitely a little concerned about that matchup, but like we already said, I think offensively they are in a shaky place, and we might be looking at another ugly, kind of grind it out.
I've given up trying to prognosticate about how things are going to go. Like, I don't know who this team is. I have no idea what to expect for them. They could be elite, or they could, win on a blowout, or they could get blown out. So, seen it all.
It's going to be weird either way, probably. So at least we got that to look forward to.
These are two teams that are trying to figure themselves out and don't know if they're really, really good or really, really bad, or maybe just mediocre, because they've seen all of that from them. So
right, but a win puts us at 3-3. Going into the bye, and quite literally changes the complexion of the entire season. So I don't think that it can be understated how important this game is for this football team.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for Mike Zimmer. It's important for everybody involved with the Minnesota Vikings. And
Yeah.
I certainly hope that we come out and punch these guys in the mouth and don't leave a doubt, because that's what we need right now. And we need that good feeling going into that bye, or we could be in a really tough spot. 2-4 is a lot different than 3-3.
Yeah, I think if the Vikings go into the bye at 2-4, I'm not sure Zimmer survives the bye. Like I think we say every game's a must win, but I think for the organization, like this is actually like heads will roll if they head into the bye, and this team they thought was a contender, they shelled out all this money for free agents. They invested all this stuff into it. We're in year 3 of the Kirk experiment.
Yep.
Nothing to show for it. If they go into the bye at 2-4, I think heads will roll.
Yeah, I think if Greg Joseph doesn't make that kick, heads roll. Like honestly, like that game felt like this is over game until the final kick, and it still felt like that after it. But really, and coming out of the bye, guys, Dallas Cowboys, Baltimore Ravens,
Don't say it. Don't say it.
Chargers, Green Bay Packers. That's what we got coming out.
I was trying to avoid going there. This is a huge game. This is a huge game for this organization.
Yeah, it really is.
And we really have a tough opponent that we can beat. So let's see how it goes,
Yep.
Yeah, it's exciting though. It should be good, interesting football, that's for sure.
The Vikings are nothing if not interesting.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts you guys want to add this week? And anything something nagging in your brain that you were just like, oh man, I really want to talk about that.
Yeah. So one thing we haven't talked about that I think people will definitely want us to talk about is Christian Darrisaw, who I thought looked much better than Rashad Hill.
Yeah. Why the hell isn't he out there?
I don't think he was perfect. So honestly, for me, I want Darrisaw to start against the Panthers.
Totally.
I think I'm tired of trying Rashad Hill out there. I think he's going to get roasted by either Hassan Reddick or Brian Burns if we do trot him out there. So at that point, why don't we see what the rookie has? I thought there were a couple of really nice pass pro reps that he had. I think his anchor is night and day compared to Rashad Hill. Now, that's not what you need against Brian Burns.
He looks bigger. He looks stronger.
It's just a very unique, and you got to watch his film because he's super athletic, but he's also huge. Like the term dancing bear is thrown out for like offensive tackle prospects, but he like really is like, he's got crazy movement ability, but he's also just like, he's like Ole Udo, like just like this huge, gigantic dude with giant arms that just like easily mows people down when he like gets his hands on them. So
dancing bear also means other things to other people, but that's a pretty funny term. I've never heard that one before.
Okay,
it's pretty common scouting term.
Google that.
Google that don't actually.
All right, let's do this, you guys. It's time. All right, we know that our listeners don't want to hear us talk about our fantasy teams, but we really want to talk about them. We are engaged in one of the most exciting fantasy seasons we've had yet as a group. 15 seconds of fantasy. Go, Nick.
I'm 5-0. You're all losers. Literally. I'm the best.
Matt.
I don't want to talk about my fantasy team this week, actually. I lost to Nick.
All right. I'm really excited because I've got a touchstone game against Matt coming up this week. I think it's a big one.
It'll be
all right. Well, this has been a great time, guys.
I know, baby.
Matt, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Fries Football.
At Fries Football. Nick, where can people find you on Twitter?
At Nick Olson with an O, NFL. Or check out Heart and Skull on YouTube for our video breakdowns.
Yes, Heart and Skull on YouTube. I'm Greg Blake. You can
not Heart and
Skull.
Oh
shit!
No, not that. Very much not.
We're leaving that in. That shit is not getting cut out. You can find
Kindred
us.
Skulls.
Kindred
Please,
Skulls.
don't sue me.
Kindred Skulls on YouTube. Oh man, just sip from my lip. My name is Greg Blake. You can find me on Instagram at You've Been Gregged. Greg D, 3 G's altogether. And as we just said, you can find us on Twitter at Kindred Skulls. That is our Twitter handle. We're available on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have an app that you want us to be listed on that we're not, please let us know. Thank you so much for joining us. On YouTube, you can find us by searching Kindred Skulls, not the other thing. Kindred Skulls, baby. That's our show. And that has been our show. Thank you both. And any final words?
Goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love
goodbye,
you.
I love you, Skull.
Oh, another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another first round corner wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all cheer on behind, and we'll score the